Okay guys, this is my Gen 1 Surface Pro. I pre-ordered this in December of 2012. I got it a little before the official release, having put in a pre-order early. I think I got mine late January, early February of 2013. And since then, this device has been used almost every single day. Unfortunately, it's starting to get a bit long in the tooth, as you can imagine, running an i5 3rd gen processor. 4 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage, but the device is still a really good tablet slash two-in-one. It's one of the first of its kind, and it really did kind of pave the way for a lot of the two-in-one and convertible devices that we have on the market now. Now, I just got the replacement today. I haven't even pulled it out of the box, so I wanted to review a little bit the Gen 1 Surface Pro and what led me to my current decision for its replacement, which is a little bit different, but I'm excited to get my hands on and actually start using. So let's jump right in. Now, when I was first shopping for this device, I was replacing an older HP laptop that I really hadn't been using that much anymore. I bought my laptop, I want to say 2003, November 2003. It was a dual-core Athlon, I don't even remember, 2200 XP Plus or something along that line, 1 gig of RAM. I don't even remember the hard drive size, but that thing was a 20-pound tank. It was a desktop replacement style unit, had a NVIDIA GeForce 3 64 meg discrete graphics card in it, and it was a pretty good computer, but it was not portable. It did not have good battery life, had a reasonable keyboard and a good trackpad, and was a good device, but it was not what I needed in a laptop. And it was a good computer, but it was the wrong choice. So what I was looking for was something that was powerful, had the options to ramp up and do a tiny bit of gaming, not light gaming, not serious gaming, but could be a good productivity and content consumption device. And in looking over all my options, I settled on the Surface device as the best for me because it offered a very small package with good portability. Now, this is a 10.1 inch 1080p display, which is great on the portability side. Battery life, not the best, but through tweaking the power delivery options and limiting the max CPU output when on battery, I'm able to get, or was originally, able to get about 3.5 to 4 hours of light usage out of it. Now, with Windows updates, changes to drivers, adjustments to the way everything kind of operates, the web becoming more hungry, I get maybe 2 hours of battery life out of it right now. Overall, though, the device, while kind of beat up, is still in pretty good condition. The portions of it that are damaged is nothing that I would really use. The screen is still perfectly flawless. There's no dents, there's no dings, just a bit of dust that is a pain to keep off of it. If I flip it around, we can see on the back side where most of the wear and tear is, some scuffs on the paint from laying it on the countertop. You can see the bulk of the damage here is on the keyboard itself. This used to wrap all the way around the magnetic portion of the keyboard. And ultimately, the keyboard is why I'm replacing it. The hinge still makes a very nice clicking sound and still works very well. So no complaints there. The keyboard, however, is where my complaints always were and what is the reason that I'm replacing, or is the reason I'm replacing it. So if we look at the keyboard, I like the keyboard a lot. It's got a good feedback. It's not going to be for massively long sessions, but it is a good keyboard. The keys have reasonable travel to them, and it's very nice. The trackpad is pitiful, unfortunately, on these early devices. The trackpad is not very responsive. It does not work well. The mouse clicks are kind of confused, so unless you kind of go on the very edge, sometimes if you're trying to right click, you'll end up left clicking. So trackpad's garbage, which really made it kind of difficult, especially when you're trying to use it in Excel and get precise to do drag downs or extensions to go down columns in cells. So that's painful. But the keyboard itself is nice and functioning on that end, and I like how it also doubles as the cover for the unit. My issue, I want to separate it, is currently right down in here. Now, when I was going to purchase this device, I had a concern about the wear and tear on this portion of it. As you can see, it does a lot of rotating as you open and close, and if you're going to fold it under the device, then you end up rotating it around this way. And this type of usage is what it was designed for, but ultimately what failed. So there's a little connection ribbon in here that comes out and into the keyboard, and I can feel some of it in there. But currently, the keyboard does not work unless, if I lay the device down, I can show you a lot easier. I have it bent, I'll use my hands out of the way, like this, and I push in on it because the ribbon is severed. And unless I bend it and press in on it like this, the connection won't actually be there in order for the keyboard to function. So at times, if it detects the keyboard when I boot it up and then it loses it, sometimes the display and the whole unit will just lock up until I reestablish the connection, and then everything on the screen kind of jumps back into life and catches up again. Otherwise, it just won't work at all. Worst case, if for some reason it connects and disconnects, it shorts out and reboots the unit. So keyboard kind of broken right now. I can make it work, but it's getting very problematic. It's working less and less. I have to push harder and harder on it to get it to connect, and the reboots are starting to take a toll on the system as it has to do check disk and other things to validate the file integrity. So a bit of a problem on that front. Software-wise, let's boot this guy up. It boots up very quickly still, which is nice. Everything works well on it. I never upgraded it to Windows 10. Well, I say it works well on it, but you can kind of see right now it's having a problem with the keyboard. So if I undock the keyboard and get that out of the way, oh, it's going to be hard locked. Well, screen rotation still works, so that's something. Yeah, so that's exactly what I'm talking about. You can see the time just updated, but unfortunately it doesn't want to respond. So let's see if I can get it to do something. Oh, there's the mouse working, but it's frozen. So now I got to reboot the device. We'll see if I can do a soft boot on it, or if I'm going to have to do a whole reset on it. Wake up. Nope, I'm going to have to do a reset. So let's pause while I do the 30-second reboot, a hard reset on this unit, and get it up and running. Yay for practical demonstration of why it's broken. And we're back. So now that we're in, you can see I never upgraded to Windows 10 for two reasons. One, Windows 10 has a lot of issues with updates and broken hardware and a number of other things that I just don't want to mess with on my tablet. I boot this thing up now because I just want to watch a video on YouTube, watch a movie. I just need it to work, and I don't want to mess and fiddle with those updates. Even Windows 8.1 updates started getting a little ridiculous when I turn it on and I have to wait for 30 minutes for the system to configure and apply updates. And the older it gets, the longer these updates take to apply. And problem number two with this is the fact that the hard drive has pretty much been full since day one because the operating system is so huge that it takes up so much space. And then I have Steam with Counter-Strike, Dota 2, and I think one other small game installed on here, and there's no hard drive space left. The benefit was that it has a micro SD card slot in there, and I'm able to put a reasonable amount of storage on it to add some videos for portability on airplanes and things. But it takes so long to remove the files and apply everything that it's just not worth it. So for the last couple of years, I've pretty much disabled Windows Update. I run it periodically when I'm not needing the tablet. So I'll boot it up in the evening, trigger Windows Update. It usually takes about an hour or two to download, configure, and do the install, and it's just brutal. So everything else is up to date as far as the antivirus and all that stuff, but as far as updates, yeah, it's terrible. Now, part of the reason why I wanted to stay with Windows 8.1 is while a lot of people hate it, and I agree on a desktop computer, it's garbage, the Metro UI, I'm going to call it that because that's what it is really great for a tablet. I like this layout. I like how easy it is and simplistic it is to configure a bunch of tiles for a tablet. On a desktop, this was trash. That's why my main computer, I still run Windows 7, just because it works so perfectly. And whenever they decide to figure out Windows 10 updates and not forcing things and not letting me uninstall things, I will gladly switch to it. But until that day, I'm stuck. But in this, it works very well. Now, I'm going to zoom in on this. But you can see the wear indicator shows I'm at about 19% wear level. I'm going to call it about 20. And that's pretty good considering this device is pretty much 7 years old almost. So 7 years of pretty hard usage. I run the battery down to anywhere between 5 and 15% regularly before I throw it back on the charger, and off we go. So it works really well. It's a great device. I've loved it. I've loved the display. Because it's a small 10-inch display, the 1080 panel with the pixel density looks really good, and I've loved it. I didn't really want to update to the Surface 2 or the Surface 3. They just weren't worth it, and this device was still kicking butt. Around the Surface 4, I started wanting to upgrade it. Now, I never really did, because ultimately for the utilization that I needed out of this device, it was still doing just fine, so I never actually did upgrade. I looked at the Surface 5, but it was starting to be apparent that Microsoft wasn't really caught up with the times. The look of the device was great. The adjustments to the kickstand were great. Being able to make the device more angled was something I've wanted to do for a long time. But most of the time it's just sitting in my lap or being held in bed, whatever the case may be. So not the end of the world. And what I mean by not updating it is the I/O. Currently, you have this magnetic port where all the charging goes, and you have a mini display port. And then you have your earphone jack and the regular USB port. I love having the full-sized USB port. Charging on their magnetic cable is great. I do not have any real problems with it. But at that point, the Surface 5, USB-C was obviously going to be taking over and becoming the de facto port for most portable devices at that point. Surface 6, still no USB Type-C. Surface 7, finally a USB-C port. Unfortunately, it replaces the mini display port, so now we need more dongles. But at least there's a USB-C port. But it's not Thunderbolt, and you can't charge off of it. So we're still not fully on current gen tech, which is brutal, because I really did want to get another Surface device. I love the form factor. The new one has a 2K display that has been around for a long time. They haven't really updated it, but it still is a good display. Battery life's better and all of that. They did have some great sales over the Black Friday period when I made my purchase that were very tempting. The best one I saw was the Surface Pro 7 i5 variant, 8 gigs of RAM with 256 gigs of storage. They included the pen and they included the keyboard for $1,000. That's not bad, but I couldn't do it. In part because it was an 8th gen chip, which is a good chip, but I'm buying this thing to last. I require at least 7 to 8 years of usage out of this. This thing's not done. It still is a good screen. I still have the pen. It still works just fine. My daughter's going to love playing with this thing with some of the stupid games it's got. She's going to enjoy this. She has a Kindle. It's not really the best for anything other than low-end Kindle usage, simply because the Kindle's got trash specs on it, but it works for her. But this will be a nice step up for her to play some games, to use the drawing applications in a little more depth. So this thing's still going to keep on trucking, because it's not going to need the keyboard to do those. And the on-screen keyboard is garbage. It's not good to use. But my new device needs to last. 8 gigs of RAM, it's just not going to cut it for any real productivity usage. Now, I'm not going to be sitting there running PowerPoint on this all day and Excel with massive files. I use my computer or my work computer for that, and that's what those things are more geared towards. But if I need to do something that requires memory, I'm going to do it. When I go to YouTube to watch videos, I'll queue up 15, 20 videos from all the channels that I keep tabs on and watch, and I'll go through those over the course of a couple of days, and that eats through a lot of memory. On top of which, Windows is going to be a bit more of a hog in certain areas, and the hard drive of 256 gigs. This 128 was full almost immediately, and I think it's actually about 119 after the unfortunate loss of storage space. So by the time everything's done, I only had about 20 gigs of actual storage to play with. So a 256 is going to be limiting, especially because with the newer hardware, I want to be able to play a couple games again. I want to hook up my Xbox, wireless Xbox controller and play some video games on it, have some more portability, higher quality video options, more to do with it. And the Surface at $1,000 just wasn't going to cut it. Before that sale, it wasn't even a contender, because having to pay $130 for the keyboard and then even more money for the pen, no thanks. I paid $130 for this keyboard, which is what broke it. The pen was included with it, thankfully, but it ended up spec'd out the way I wanted to buy it, it was going to be about $1,400 to $1,500, and it's just not worth that much money. Not for me. So what were my options? Well, I ended up switching to a Lenovo device. So let's bring that out. So this is my device, or the back of the box. I haven't taken it out of the box. The tape is still intact. I just got it today, which is December 18th. I ordered it on the 2nd or the 3rd of December. Why did I switch to a Lenovo? Well, I got the Yoga 2-in-1, which gives me the option to still have a tablet mode, fold the screen around the back, and still maintain a full keyboard. I looked at a number of different devices from Dell, HP, a slew of models from Lenovo, and none of them really tickled me except for this latest version, which is the C940. From HP, I looked at the Spectre 360 something. Dell had a couple models, including an XPS one, and they all had enough shortcomings and just weren't the right device for me. And I'm hopeful this one will be. Otherwise, I may end up with the Surface, but the sales are off and I'll be stuck with my Gen 1 for another year. Unfortunately, I'll have to buy a keyboard for the Gen 1 for it to work. Still about $100, and because they don't make the Gen 1 keyboards anymore, it's going to look really stupid because it'll be a Gen 2, Gen 3 keyboard, which is much bigger than the current one. Now, my Lenovo. I looked at a number of different units. The 730 and the 930 were huge contenders. The 730 and some of the other convertible lineups that were really cheap got ruled out simply because they just wouldn't have the longevity that I spoke to, that I'm looking for. I'm looking for 7 to 8 years out of this device, and those just wouldn't cut it. The other situation, the 930 had an overheating problem and a couple other issues that I saw spread across a number of different buy sites, including their own, as well as YouTube videos and other reviews as a common thread that I didn't really want to jump into. Now with the 940, I've seen a few issues where the fans seem to ramp up, but I've seen a number of different patches that seem to have fixed it for folks, as well as call-outs that changing the profile will adjust the fans itself, so I'm not too terribly concerned about it. And the specs that I got on this, I did one of the custom units because they had a sale for about $1,000, but again, it was the i7, which I don't need that much horsepower for the CPU. It's just going to drain the battery life faster. The 4K display, which I want, but again, it's a 14-inch display, so cramming that many pixels into a 14-inch display is beautiful. It's a great-looking display, but not really what I'm going to need. So I went with the 1080p panel, and I wanted the 16 gigs of RAM and the 512 gig hard drive, just to give myself enough room over the years to do everything that I want on it without having to mess with it. On top of which, it doesn't have an external SD card slot, so I need the internal storage to make sure that I can haul around enough files and data to go off the grid if I do anything of that nature. So the sales were i7, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gig hard drives, things like that, and I was so close to purchasing it multiple times, but ultimately I said this isn't the device that I want. So I did the custom option and put in what I wanted for it. All in, I think it was about $1,380 shipped, which is roughly what I paid for my Gen 1 Surface Pro almost 7 years ago, so I think I got a good deal and good hardware. The other benefit of the 940 versus the 930 was instead of an 8th gen CPU, I'm getting 10th gen. Now I know 10th gen Intel CPUs aren't going to be the bee's knees, and I know they're kind of lagging a bit behind because they never really thought AMD was going to actually do anything for years, and I'm very happy AMD is, but it's still an incremental improvement, better battery life, smaller lithography and all that stuff on the chip, so an improvement to be had nonetheless. So that's why I switched to this device. Let's unbox it and see what it looks like coming fresh out. All right, so I'm going to try my best to keep everything in frame on this, and I'll try to keep it in focus. Again, I don't have the best camera for all of this. As I mentioned in my other video, my camera's got some issues, so I am doing my best to work around those. I don't even have a proper knife on me, so I gotta use kitchen scissors. Oh, come on, pay attention. All right, here we go. Pop this open. and see what we get. Now, I'm not going to go crazy on all of this because there's plenty of unboxing videos online, and who really cares about everything in its fanciness. Just want to show kind of how things come in the box. So obviously this will be the power, which is nice, and it's USB Type-C, which is exactly what I wanted for power. Connects with everything else. That's about all you get in there. And then we move on to the device itself. Lovely presentation, lovely little package. I like the look of that. Let's see if I can line that up for you a little bit. Not the best job, but working blind here. So just on the box itself, let's compare that with the Gen 1. So 10-inch screen, 14-inch screen. So you can see not too bad of a device. It's still going to be small, still going to be portable. I think I'm looking at about probably under load 6 to 8 hours of actual usable battery life. I'm hoping to do better than that, but I'm not going to get my hopes up too far right now. And honestly, if it's the amount that I just quoted, I'm not going to be unhappy. I like this pull tab here to kind of get into the package. I was about to cut it with scissors, and they made a way for me to not have to do that. So very pleased with that. Although now I can't seem to grab the rip that it created. Let's get this plastic off of there. Get out of the way. Come on, come on. Okay. Sure that's out of the shot, and let's open this for the first time. Really nice device. We'll set the device aside for a moment. Lightweight, I like that. User's manuals that are all over the place. Setup guide, I don't think I'm going to need that. I know how a computer works. Safety guide and warranty. Probably something good I should have, but I should be okay without that for a moment. Anything else in this? Nope. Alright, so the restore point should be on the system. That's how it goes. It does come with Windows 10, but because I'm buying it that way, it's installed, it's designed for the unit, I am not too terribly concerned. So, nice pattern on it. Straight away to the sound bar, which is one of the other reasons I purchased this device, because I wanted some good quality audio, as I do consume content primarily on this device as a portable one. Wow, one finger lift test is incredible. My work laptop doesn't do that, and none of my others did. So, straight out of the box, I'm loving the way this sucker looks. Love the finish. I like the kind of dark gray on there. I like the keyboard, the spacing is nice. Keys feel a little soft, but since I'm not doing heavy typing on it, at work I have a pretty chunky mechanical keyboard for the heavy stabbing that I do on it all day. This is not bad. It's got good travel. It's a decent keyboard. I just got to not push on it too hard. I like the big trackpad. It feels smooth, unlike the Surface one. Buttons should be nice. I don't know if I'll worry about using the fingerprint. I don't care about giving all that out. I like that it has a simple built-in switch to hide the camera, which is nice. I don't really plan to use that very often. If I do Skype or anything like that, I'm usually on a phone. I love the color. I love how easy that hinge works. I like that I can fold that extremely flat and immediately bend it over and have the tent. That's the two-in-one look and feel that I wanted. And in all honesty, when I fold that flat, let me go grab my Surface, which is the other reason that I wasn't too concerned about doing a two-in-one this time. Let's compare the overall thickness. Let's take the keyboard off. So, you tell me, how's that look? Because to me, that's pretty dang close. If I'm honest, it's a little thicker, but for what I'm getting, that is not a problem. And I like how that's looking. Now, my concern is going to be similar to this. Now, I'm not going to be laying this on anything but potentially my lap, and it'll be the keyboard side that's on there. This was the, I believe, titanium, magnesium, I don't remember which one, I think it's magnesium, case. This bottom part's just plastic, or I'm sorry, this part's plastic. This part's the metal, kind of plastic on there as well. It shows the wear and tear, so I'm hopeful that this material is a little stronger. It's definitely all metal, which is great. It feels good, feels nice. So I don't think I'll have a major concern with that stuff wearing out quite as fast. Simple I/O, full-sized USB, 2 Thunderbolt earphones, so I'm getting extra connectivity. Yeah, I'll need a dongle, which I'll probably end up buying at some point for a DisplayPort out. I do have a, well, I have a mini DisplayPort to full-sized HDMI adapter, which is kind of worthless, so I'll probably pick up a USB Type-C one so that I can continue using that and outputting it if I need to. But with this nice soundbar and all those options, I don't know how much I'm going to want to do on that. The display looks very clean, glossy. I like the look. It looks a little less glossy, if I can squeeze it in there, than my Surface. Put that off to the side and do a side-by-side. It looks a little less glossy than my Surface. It's kind of hard to see. This one has a bunch of fingerprints on it and the screen's loose. My hands are a little dirty and I don't want to touch it. This screen feels a little smoother, honestly. It could just be that the Surface is just old and worn down and used and covered in finger stuff and dust, unfortunately. Whereas this is newer and not going to be quite as much of a problem. But I look forward to seeing how it all stacks up. So, the only other thing that I haven't shown yet, which is the other reason why I liked this device, was the pen that docks in here. Simply like that. Now I've seen a bunch of complaints that the pen's a bit small. I use mechanical pencils primarily, so this really is not too bad of a little pen. In all honesty, I kind of prefer that. That's about the size of a pencil for me. A lot of people prefer the thicker, chunkier ones of other devices, and for me, that would be uncomfortable. The only thing I would say is it's a little short. I would prefer this to be a little larger just because I have larger hands in comparison. But considering I am in no way a talented artist, unless you want a stick figure, I don't foresee this being a problem. I do, on my Surface, I did use OneNote sometimes to highlight things, or if somebody sent a document or I was in a meeting doing something or an interview, I could easily jot down notes on their resumes and things like that, which was very handy. Which is where I see this kind of coming in handy again. Maybe drawing every now and then, doodling, stick figure art again. But my only complaint just out of the box would be the length. It's a little short, but you can see that it doesn't scratch, it doesn't impact, and the way I write would not be a problem with that. So I like how it has a little dock. I like how it's charged. Does seat in there. It's a little looser than I would like, but we'll see how that holds up over time. And that's the device that I purchased and the reason why. So I look forward to booting this up, getting it configured, hearing the soundbar quality, testing the keyboard, how everything works on it. I will do a couple of follow-up videos as I use the device and get familiar with its quirks and foibles and see how it actually stacks up for what I bought it for. So if you have any specific questions, anything you want me to test or look at with it, let me know. Again, I'll be doing some light gaming, productivity, content consumption, battery life utilization. I'm not going to do any crazy benchmarks or anything like that. I'm focused more on real world usage for it. So that's what I want to show, and that's how I bought it to be utilized. So thank you for watching, and I will create a couple other videos once I get it booted up, utilized, and we'll talk more on the device. So thank you guys for watching.